Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Talk to Rami. This is Rami, your host, and I'm here with two amazing ladies. They do something different in life, and it's very interesting, and I am very, very interested to hear their story. Nicole and Toni are here from the Real Ghosts of Paranormal podcast. You welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. And I am so thrilled by listening to you guys and hear what is this ghost hunting. I always was fascinated. I'm scared, by the way. I don't like any ghosts. But I'm just saying that, how did you start this? How you guys start the podcast and what made you to even think about it?
Well, I started the podcast, 3 years ago now?
I think we've been together 2 years now.
Toni has been on it for 2 years, and yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to do a paranormal podcast for a really long time, but I didn't have any friends in Austin who were interested in that. Obviously, it's a very niche interest that
it is fringe,
not everybody wants to participate in. And then I had a friend move here, who I originally started the podcast with, my friend Devin. We did like a paranormal tour thing, and afterwards I texted him and I'm like, so like scale of 1 to 10, how interested would you be in starting a paranormal podcast where we go do investigations and record it and share what we get? And he was like, 11. So that's how it started. It was definitely I just want to do this and we'll take any excuse to go do paranormal investigations because it's something I've loved my entire life. Neither one of us realized, I know you know how much work goes into creating podcasts and recording the episodes and the post-production and editing. And it's so much work. And so, neither one of us knew what we were actually getting into. And so, fast forward, Toni was recruited and now here we are.
Who recruited it? You recruited it, Toni?
Yeah, we actually met in a metaphysical Slack channel. Yeah.
Slack channel?
Yeah. And I like posted in there. I'm like, so anybody interested in helping out with our podcast? We need help with social media stuff. Yeah. And Toni's like, yep, I'm in. And so, we had like a Zoom interview thing. We met in person. We're like, okay, like this is the stuff we need help with. How's that sound to you?
And the rest is history.
And now here she is.
And then now you work together, but it's paranormal. I'm not very educated about the terminology and all that stuff, but is it ghost hunting?
Yeah.
It's the same as ghost hunting. Right?
Yeah. And I mean, paranormal, technically broad term, would apply to anything like ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, blah, 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 all that, fringe interests. But for us specifically, our podcast is focused on paranormal as in ghosts.
And why you hunting ghosts? This is my question. I'm always trying to stay away from the ghosts,
I think for a lot of us, and I mean, I'm curious what drew you to it, Toni, but I know for me, and I feel like a lot of the people that I talk to, the story generally goes, we had some sort of experience. It was really like, oh, what just happened, right? And then you start searching for answers and you start thinking really deeply about things. And you're like, what is this? What does it look like after we die? What does happen? Like, do people stay here? Are they crossing over? What, like all of these answers that, I don't know if we'll ever actually have the answers to, until we die too. But yeah.
I was reading an article and then I listened to a podcast, and I'm very fascinated by, what's going to happen after we die. As you know, are we, turn into this energy source? Are we just really leaving our body? But I believe energy. Like, I think the ghost or the soul, I better say, is a form of energy. I don't know if you agree with that or not. Yes. Like they say, I'm gonna go ghost hunting, because I watch the ghost hunters, and I think it's an energy that is it leaves our body. Like I was reading this article again, and it says that when you sleep, actually your energy leaves your body while you sleep. That's what you're wandering around, and you have different, dreams and all that stuff. And before you wake up, the energy actually comes back to your body. What is your feedback on that? Like, is it really is a soul? What is the soul? Is it like an energy? Is something like tangible? Like you see this white, kind of cloudy things, the corner of the room, and you say, what is that? Because my wife, she grew up in the house was haunted. She swears that there was two older people died in that house, husband and wife, but they didn't leave the house actually. And then they were saying that the balloon, it would just walk across the street, across the room, and then go back again. Or the jukebox would start singing, all that is, or the things would move out and all that stuff. I say, hell, I'm not going to the house.
The balloon haunting isn't too bad.
We would go there, and every night we were sleeping over there. Sometimes I was up all night.
Oh my
gosh!
gosh!
You might see her like Miss blah blah or Mister. I said I don't want to see him, but I think it's a source of energy. You have this experience. What is your experience?
Well, I think this is a very complex topic. You did mention dream stuff, which I'll let Toni talk about that, because I think that is different than the, energy of after we die. So you talk about dream stuff first, Toni.
Yeah, so just like full disclosure, I do not like consider myself a medium or anything, but I do think that I am sensitive to some things, which your wife might be as well. If she's seeing or saw two spirits in the house, she might just have a stronger psychic power or something like that. For dreams, that's where I have like most of my experiences. A really good example of this is actually like why I even got in this group that I was on the Slack channel. Was there was this one night I had a dream that I ran into my husband's grandmother who had died like 2 years ago, and we were like in somebody's house.
Wow.
And she was just going on and on and on about pink lemonade. And I was like, okay, girl, like we will get you some pink lemonade. Like, I don't know why you like are in my dream talking about pink lemonade. And the next morning I wake up and I tell my husband about this dream, yada, yada, yada. He's like, oh, you should tell my mom because his grandmother had passed away kind of recently-ish. So I called her. I told her the dream and she was like, that's like crazy because one, today is her birthday, and two, her favorite drink was Crystal Light pink lemonade. Wow. So that night, my husband and I like put her picture up, put a little candle, gave her a little Crystal Light pink lemonade, and then he had a dream about her that night. So I think that there's something about like astral projection and like your energy leaving and you being more susceptible to other energies when you're asleep, because those experiences, like I had no way to know it was her birthday, and I certainly wouldn't have known about her favorite beverage. That's one example that I have, but I know other people like astral project and they say they go to different realms and they're hanging out with friends who are also astral projecting. I'm not there yet, but some people are.
But I tell you a story, and I was telling my team today that I should discuss it with you guys. When I was 12 years old, and my mother, she came down with a severe depression. And you're talking about like 40 years ago, the medical attention was like today, like the medicine. And unfortunately, they give her like 6 electric shocks in the hospital. And she lost her like a short memory, lost, but she recovered that. But after that incident, we don't know what happened to her body. She sensed things. She sensed things. And it's very interesting. And I swear to God, I seen this with my own eyes. Like, I never forget, I put a crystal flower base in my car and, with my friend in high school. And she said, don't leave it there. You're going to break it. I said, Mom, seat belts, he's going to hold it. We're going to just take it to his house. And then we get to the place, open the door. He gets out, bam, drop. And she calls me and says, "It broke, right?" And I said, "No." He said, "I see it. I saw it." You know, and then another incident, I was coming, I served in the war, and I was coming for the break. And then she, like 2:30, 2:45 a.m., she was sitting dark corner of the living room. And when I put the key, opened the door, I didn't tell anybody I'm going or I'm coming home. And she was up and she said, "Oh, okay, you're home. And now I can go to bed." And I said, "Well, you were up." I said, "I told your father, I see you. You are in the bus and you're coming. And you're going to get here soon. And I want to just make sure you are home. I can go to bed." And I said, "Mom," and tomorrow, the next day, I asked my dad. I said, "Dad, is that true?" He said, "Yeah." She said, "I see you." She sees you. You're in the bus. You're coming. I said, "What the heck?" And like she holds your hand and she tells you something that the only person knows is you. She tells you that, not this like a mind reading. It's just that energy. And she tells me I have that energy. Like, she touches you. You can feel it. Like sometimes when I'm sick, she's 17 miles away from here. And we are 12 hours different. She's back home in Iran. And then she called me and said, "You're not feeling good. What's happened?" I said, "No." He said, "Don't lie to me. I can feel it. I can feel the energy." Make the story short, I think this energy source is something so serious. Like, I believe that. Like, really, I believe that. And then when you meet some people, they have a negative energy, the same thing. That's what I just, oh.
Yeah, you can feel it.
I can
It's
feel
palpable.
it. You agree with that?
Yeah, of course.
You
Or
experience
you
it?
can walk into a space and you're like, "Oh, I shouldn't be here," or like, "Oh, this feels really cozy and warm," or something like that.
Like everybody comes to our studio, comes to our office. All our clients say, "There's a good energy going on here. There's a good vibe." They're all saying it. Now I think that because the collective energy of all of us here, that we are always, positive, all this stuff, it create that atmosphere. I don't know. What is your idea about that? What is your feedback? You laughing? You got something to say? You got
Well, I mean, all of that's kind of my job on the podcast. I'm the medium, so I'm the one that like
Oh, you
taps
medium.
into that energy. Yeah. So, I mean, my explanation of that based on what I have experienced is yes, when we are living, we all have energetic connections, right? Like energy, everything is matter and atoms, right? It's all vibrating at these different frequencies. But okay, for your example, like your mom, right? Of course she's going to have a really strong energetic attachment to you. You literally came out of her, right? Like she grew you. And so that energetic attachment is always going to be there. There was actually, it happened to us once. What was it? You were like upset or something? I don't know. But I texted you and like we're together often, right? And so I like felt it. I'm like, "Yo, dude, like, you okay?"
You freak me out
Yeah,
sometimes.
and she's like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know.
Stay out of my brain.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I just felt it. Like, I'm sorry, but that happens with people. I mean, that you are close to when you are developing that energetic connection with them. You are just gonna feel those things. It's like motherly intuition, right? Except it's not just mothers who have that. I think anybody who is close to one another, you're going to develop that. And I'm sure you've probably had that happen with your wife even, right? Where like she's probably not saying something is wrong, but you're like, "No, I know something is wrong. What is it?" Right? Because you feel it.
Yeah.
And so I think with that, and I mean with what I do, I think sure, some people just like music, right? People might have a more natural proclivity to it.
To the music,
But
yeah.
I believe that it is something that anyone and everyone can tap into and can learn how to tap more into and practice it. It just takes awareness, right? And actively practicing it and working on honing that skill. It's a skill just like anything else.
Yeah, basically, you tell me we all have the foundation of that energy. Like it's going to be low or it's a high. But if you work on it and then you basically understand it and kind of nurture it or understand it, you can get to the level that you can sense things. And that can be in the like your personal relationships, understanding your loved one, understanding your partner, your husband, your wife, your friends. When you do that, I think that's very fascinating.
Yeah. That is what I believe at least. But tied to that, though, I will say it does come with an asterisk
Whoa.
because when you are when you are actively practicing feeling and tapping into these energies, as we already talked about, there are going to be some things that you don't necessarily want to feel, right? So, for example, like my kind of story of how I even figured out that I have these abilities, is I was dealing with anxiety a lot. Like it was to the point where even just like driving in my car to go to the grocery store, go to Target or something, I would be like borderline having a panic attack because when I am in those places, I'm feeling everything from everyone in there so
Wow.
intensely, but I couldn't necessarily identify that that's what it was. To me, I just thought that I was like, I don't know, I guess I just have really bad social anxiety and I don't know how I deal with this, right? And so most people, myself included, tend to deal with those things with some sort of self-numbing, right? You like dissociate so that way you're not feeling those things. Or some people will use, pick your drug of choice, alcohol or whatever, or taking medications even, depending on dosage level. Some of those can really like numb you out from feeling those things. So it does also, I personally believe, go hand in hand with learning how to protect your own energy. So that way, like, it's like if you're in your car and you're driving down the highway, like, you're not going to pick up, every freaking person on the side of the road that's like, hey, I'm hitchhiking. I know people don't really do that anymore, but when they did do that, it's like you're not going to just pick up every single person that you come across, right? Like we have to be discerning on who we are letting in to our space, to our energy field, however you want to look at it. But yeah, for me, it
Wow,
goes
that's
really
so
hand in
important that
hand.
you just mentioned basically what you hang around with or who you hang around with or what environment that will define you, not only who you are or how that energy is going to represent itself to the rest of the people. Like I totally agree with you. Sometimes when I'm in an environment that is a whole thing, it doesn't go well with me. I feel like nauseous. I feel like sick. And I say, I think because you were right, that energy that gets to you, and you can absorb it. And if you understand that, you can just reject that.
Yeah.
Then you'll be much, much better.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like something
Wow.
for me as somebody that is very sensitive to those things. Yes, I do have an energetic protection practice that I do every single day. However, when you are just walking around in your normal life, obviously we're coming in contact with a
Yeah.
lot of people, right? Through like just by driving down the street or going to work or going to the grocery store, we're encountering all of these people. And so it's also important to know how to cleanse those energies, exactly like you just said. Once you can be attuned with these things, being able to then make that conscious decision of, ooh, I didn't really like that person's energy, or like I went into this place and it just kind of felt bad vibes and now I'm feeling like nauseous, whatever, like I need to release this, right? Knowing how to do that. And so for someone like me that's more sensitive to those things, I have like a cleansing practice pretty much every day as well. I'll either do a shower where I'm, imagining that that's cleansing everything off. I love using salt for this. So
Salt?
whether it's a salt bath or like a salt body scrub, or even if it's a day, maybe you're like super pressed for time or you're traveling or whatever, right? Life. We all know that happens. Even just like washing your hands and using a salt scrub or something, that is really cleansing. Some people will do it with like a smoke cleansing, like using burning sage or Palo Santo, some sort of incense. Some people will do it with frequencies, like using a bell and using that to cleanse the space, because again, going back to the energy, right? And atoms and everything it's vibrating and creating those waves, right? Everything is just waves. So of course sound is going to cleanse it too. So pick whichever one feels best to you. But yeah, the protections and cleansings I think is really important.
And then going back to the, ghosts and the energy, when you go to just chase, recover, find out about these people, basically those people that they're passed away and they are kind of contained right now in one space, that they say, oh, you have to send them to the light, something like that. Basically, when you meet those energy that can be negative, as you say, and that can be positive, I say, oh, this ghost is mad. This spirit is very mad. And what is your story on that? Have you ever you have? I'm sure you got a lot of stories because I don't know you know this restaurant Clay Pit in Austin, Ghost Hunter. It's my friend, my brother Bali owns that, and
Oh man, put us in
Yeah,
contact.
we've been wanting to go to
You
the
wanna
clay
do
pit
it?
forever.
Yes.
serious?
Yes. Hook us
I'll
up.
make it. Just remind me after the show. I give him a call, and I'll make it happen. When we drinking, sitting over there, it's just me and him, like kind of 11:30, 11 p.m. And I won't be a friend. We sit at the bar and say, "Hey, you want to go downstairs?" I say, "Heck no."
So you're not going to ghost hunt with us at clay pit?
I will walk behind you.
That's fine.
Hiding behind
I know. I come with you. I promise you. I come with you because there's a little girl that after midnight it walks on the second floor. I heard it. Everyone knows that. She goes duck, 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 and she goes like that. And
How does she go?
it just duck, duck, duck. And then and then there is a well down there in the like a basement that one of the boss boy actually was laying down over there and to take a nap middle of the day, and he said somebody was touching his hair, and and then he got up and said nobody. He ran, and they're saying that it's weird stuff, but we can go really every night after midnight. This happened. More than welcome. We can go together because they had a documentary on the ghost hunting show, whatever. They went over there. Actually, they figured that there is a ghost up there and there's an energy or something. But my question is, when you go to these places and you see this, not a negative energy, like unhappy or trapped, how you feel, how you figure it out that this is not the cutest space for me to be here. Is it getting dangerous? Is it getting like I never been? And any stories? We love stories.
We have a lot of stories, but you want to talk
Anything
about that first?
Go ahead, Tony.
Which one? The one that had me running all over the place?
Are you serious?
I am not as brave as Nicole. I do my best, but
I am your friend now. I'm right behind you.
we might be running together.
I
So
know.
wear your Nikes.
I know.
Well, so one of the things that we do on the podcast is that, like, I will do the history research of the place we're going, but Nicole doesn't even know where we're going. I just pick her up, tell her how many days we're going to be gone, and we're going there because we want to make sure that she's
You guys
actually
are
using
brave,
her
I swear to
mediumship, and not like researching beforehand or something to give biased answers. So she never knows where we're going. And even like if we're getting close to the street signs, I'll be like, close your eyes, take off your glasses. But we went to one recently where I was like, hey, Nicole, this is the first time I've ever felt like doing this, but everything I just learned, I do feel like for your safety and my safety, I need to tell you like what happened in this space because it did not feel good to me. I'm not as sensitive as you, so it's probably going to feel even worse when you go up there. And I do actually feel like, I don't know if this is going to resonate with many people, but like when you're a woman, you're walking alone on the street at night and you feel like you could get hurt or something, like you have that
sensation.
that feeling upstairs, which I never have in a space. So I was like, I'm concerned for like our physical safety, our metaphysical safety, every kind of safety. I will not be spending much time in that room, but I'm happy to wait outside if you want to go in there. Fast forward, we do end up going into that room, and this room, a family lived in this house, was conjuring demons in this room and like playing with all this like really negative stuff.
It was literally like documented, like there was a satanic cult that would go in there and perform rituals and stuff. So this is different than, some places will have that claim, right? But they have like documentation and interviews, and I have like talked to people that lived there and witnessed it and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, carry on.
Yeah, it's definitely not like I went to a Hot Topic and got a book on the devil and I'm like playing games in the house. It was like full
Are
on.
you serious?
It was like full on satanic stuff happening in that room. The investigation itself was very scary. We stayed downstairs most of the time, but then we did go upstairs to that room because we were like, well, we haven't even made it upstairs. let's see if we got what it takes to go back upstairs. So begrudgingly, I march up the stairs with Nicole.
Behind me.
Yes. Yes.
You're like, you go first.
Yes. Yeah, you could see things I can't. You could be like, there's something coming, run. And I'm out there.
It's a ghost, run.
But yeah, we sat in that couch for a second and both of us felt horrible. Like you instantly feel nauseous and like a weight on your chest, kind of like a pushing down on your chest. And I'm over here thinking to myself, oh, I hope she's ready to wrap this up. Let's go. I think we lasted all of 3 minutes on that couch. And then, what did you feel?
It was not long. We were definitely there. It was for sure less than 10 minutes. But yeah, for me, I mean, we have been a lot of places at this point. Like, we've gone to Alcatraz. We've been in freaking death row in Missouri State Penitentiary. You know, yeah, like we've been to a lot of haunted places at this point. And I will say, being upstairs at this location in this specific room where these rituals happen, blah, 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 I've felt things that have felt, you know, not warm and fuzzy before, right? But I think majority of the time, a lot of those things are simply, it's misunderstood, right? So just like in life, we can get mad and have, you know, crappy energy. Okay, well, when you pass, you can also still be, you know, like, be mad about something, right? Or maybe you're simply trying to like make contact with somebody, right? And you're like, oh, I'm gonna touch your hair, right? And then the person sleeping there is like, oh crap, I don't know what this is, and they're running, really, right? Like, but really, it's like, you know, not a big deal, right? So I think that is majority of what those things are. However, in this location,
in this location, people actually living there, or no?
They don't live there anymore.
What's interesting is they bought the space with the intention of living in it, if I'm remembering correctly. They no longer live in it because of the activity.
They don't even live in the same city. And when people rent it out for overnight investigations, they have an RV that they park behind the house, and that is where they stay. They will not stay in the house any longer.
And both of them have gotten physically hurt in the house. The wife,
the wife got a concussion. Anymore. Yeah, it's wow. I have never, out of all of the places that we've been, I've never felt anything like that. I have never been anywhere where I actually legitimately did feel concerned for our physical safety and well-being.
You say physical, like a safety, like these energies or ghosts, they really physically will hurt you?
They can.
Yeah, so we had to sign a waiver before we went there that was like, we are not liable if you get like scratched, hit, like whatever. Like
pass out, have a heart attack, have a stroke, death, because all of those things are in the waiver because they have documented cases of them happening.
Okay. So we run down the stairs and... Yeah, let's not joke around. We sprinted down the stairs. First time I've seen her run. And she was.
What did you feel that you said, I want to run?
That I was like, we're out of here. For me, I made that decision based on, like Toni said, when we were sitting on the couch, we're feeling this pressure on our chest, which isn't uncommon. You can go into haunted spaces and very often they'll feel like heavy or you'll feel a pressure on your chest. But this was different in the sense that it wasn't just a pressure on my chest. It felt like it was like as if somebody had put like a 10-pound weight on my chest, but then was standing on top of it, like pushing it down further and further and further, right? So it's getting like heavier and heavier and heavier as you're sitting there. But then just like, okay, like you were talking about earlier, you walk into a space and somebody's mad and you're like, oh, I feel that, right? Yeah, we've all felt that. I felt that plenty of times when we've been in spaces where something is like, oh, like it doesn't want us to be here. Or like, oh, I feel like we shouldn't go in that room, whatever. But this was like
it was definitely malicious.
It was like, I want you to be here right now because I want to kill you, which is like, I literally feel like I
goosebumps again.
like I feel crazy saying that because it sounds so dramatic. And like, I'm not a dramatic person. Like literally our inside joke is I do not have reactions to things. Okay. So for me to say something like that, I'm like that is what it actually felt like. Like I imagine, I mean, it felt probably on par with like if we were, you know, walking down a dark alley by ourselves and somebody comes out and like
You didn't have the
tries to
same
mug
feeling,
you
yeah.
at a gunpoint. Like, yeah, I've been in that situation too. And that's about the same as like that felt, honestly. And so I was like, no, like we're out of
energy.
here.
Very heavy. We're going back. Not
We're
looking-
going
Are you
back.
serious?
We're going back.
What is wrong
We
with
got
you?
the problem.
Because we're dumb. The idiot brigade over
Why
here.
going back? What is wrong with you, lady?
Okay, well, why do you want to go back, Tony? I'm curious what your answer is to this.
I'm sure you got new sneakers.
Do you want to go back?
Maybe that's
Is it just me? Are we just going back for me?
Okay, so I think there's a lot of activity in there, and that's like thrilling and interesting and everything. But I also think I'm less of a weenie today than I was then, and I kind of want to like prove something to myself. Like, you can't boss me around,
Yeah.
ghost. You know?
Yeah.
They totally probably can.
And you guys,
but-
do you have any like devices you can detect energy
Yeah.
and you know like a night vision or something like a whatever they use in it, and then you basically can feel kind of something in the room.
Yeah, we have, you know, the typical equipment. We have EMF detector, which novel idea we use to actually detect EMF to see, because that, if you go look up like the effects
EMF
that
stands for
electromagnetic.
magnetic for some listeners.
Yeah, so if you put it by like a power box or something, that's going to have EMF, but the symptoms of that or what that will cause in people can be very similar to what people would experience in a haunting, right? So we use that to see, okay, are there any actual like electrical issues going on here? Yeah, we have like night vision, trail cams, we have a spirit box, we have a
Dowsing
REM
rods.
pod, dowsing rods. Yeah, we have the things. But honestly, most of the time we just kind of set them out as like, oh, we're gonna set this here and see like what happens and if it goes off. But I would say a majority of how we investigate is very like feelings based, you know, and sitting there and like seeing what we are actually seeing or hearing or feeling.
That's kind of scary.
They're not all like that. That's a unique
not all like that?
circumstance. We've had some fun ones too.
Oh, really?
Fun,
And
cute
then
ones.
what is the definition of like a bad spirit or angry spirit rather than, as you said, you had fun, some good spirit? Is it based on their history of death, or based on what happened to him, or what is it?
I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like spirits run the full gamut of human emotion. So if you're happy-go-lucky in life, you are most likely going to be happy-go-lucky in death. But let's say you had, you know, you got murdered or something like that. Even if you're happy-go-lucky, you're going to be pissed. And you're going to be angry and confused about what's happening. And that's going to impact how you show up for people who are sensitive.
Right, maybe wanting some vengeance or justice. I do think something that we've talked about before that we've also noticed is the spirits will also react to the energy that you bring, right? So like if you go into a space, like there are some ghost shows that, you know, get a lot of crap because they'll go into space and be like, I don't believe you're here, ghost. Like, what are you going to do? I don't think you can do it, you know? So like taunting and being really, you know, obviously if you're doing that to a human, they're going to get defensive and reactive, right? That's not going to be any different versus like when we go into spaces, we really prioritize being respectful and understanding, like,
Introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Say like, what we're here to do.
we
like,
want to
You
know
really
that.
go through that?
Yeah, because it's like if somebody's
based on your research, right? You do a research and say, okay, this has happened, this has happened.
Yeah, she doesn't know that. So we do.
You don't tell her.
No.
And why is it? Why is that?
do you want to explain how we do our investigation?
Yeah. That's good for listeners or the people listen and watch to know how their process works.
Yeah, so Nicole doesn't know anything. I will find the locations or she'll find a location and be like, hey, do you want to reach out, see if we can get in there? Once we have the green light to go in, I start doing the historical research, but I don't share any of that with her. I don't even do it on the same account that we share for the podcast. So
and
that
this
she
is
can't see
also
it.
to make the caveat, like I mean, we just got into a location that you said you've been working on for like a year.
Wow.
So even if I tell her like, hey, here's like something I saw, whatever, it's not like, okay, that's next in the queue. It's, we're trying to reach out to probably, I don't know, I would assume anywhere from like 5 to 10 places at once. So
Yeah. So if you're listening and it's haunted, reach out to us.
let us know.
They crazy enough to go and hunt the ghost.
So once we get to the location, I like shove Nicole in the car. She can't see anything. We get to the location. We do a walkthrough that is just her read. So she's just going to be walking around the space, picking up on any communication that the spirits have, any energy she's feeling, et cetera, and starting to like put the puzzle pieces together of what happened in this location. When that's finished, I'll do a history reveal, which I'm like, these are all the things you got. You did it. Yay.
Oh, basically. Okay, let me get this right. Basically, you're testing her.
Yes.
And how she passed that test. Was it like a 90%?
Yeah, I'd say you're like a
Like
solid
basic-
A student.
An
Really?
A student.
You do not tell her the history. She's going to just kind of tell you that, oh, I think this has happened. I think this has happened.
And she'll
I
get
feel
names.
this, I feel that.
And I try to give questions like, hey, are you like, if there's something like in the room that she's not getting, start asking some other questions just to get the, I don't know, what would you call it? Your antenna moving?
Basically trying to get me to focus in on what I need to be focused on, because like for me, when I go into a location, so there are not a lot of mediums who do paranormal investigations. Most mediums will read people, right? They'll sit down with you and be like, oh, I see your grandma behind you and she looks like this and da da da. And you know,
that.
she's I can do that, but I more so specialize in locations, which for me, or I guess I should say, in my opinion, is a lot more difficult, because not only am I trying to wade through the history of what occurred on that land, right, and in that surrounding area, also the history of that building and what has gone on in that location and in that physical space, versus if there are people in there, like if we go to a hotel, right? Every single person in that space, I'm then going to be feeling their energy and picking up on the spirits that are attached to them, right? So it's like all of these different layers and levels that I'm trying to wade through. And so we always joke, actually, that I need to have like a deli ticket counter, you know, and be like, okay, like get in line, you know, one at a time. So it can be a lot that I am wading through to try to figure out, you know, what is relevant to the history. So yeah, I kind of give like a blanket, oh, I see this and this and this and da da da. And then if I pick up on something that is directly relevant to what we want to be investigating, she'll ask me more questions about that to make sure that I'm focusing on what is going to be relevant to the case, if you will.
And how you, Tony, you find these places? Just the research?
Just
online?
Google. Yeah. Google, networking, talking to
Have you
people.
ever had the experience that people said, no, we don't want to do that?
Yeah.
Really?
We've had people who
Is residential, or like it is the people
like-
living there, or?
we've had places that are like businesses don't want to be associated with like a haunting or something like that, or like we've had some like historical sites that they would prefer that we speak differently, and that's okay. We're not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Not everybody's gonna like you. That's fine. But after we do the walkthrough, history reveal, we go back to wherever we're staying. Sometimes it's in the haunted place. Eat some snacks.
You can actually sleep there?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Usually.
We don't
Never
worry.
do that.
Don't worry. We do sleep together. We do get scared.
Really?
And you bring your stuffed animal.
I do. I have a stuffed animal, little bunny rabbit, and I bring it with me, and it's
What that does?
it's just
just
comfort.
comfort.
Yeah.
And,
I
you know,
cuddle my bunny on one side and Tony on the other. Our last investigation, all three of us ended up in a bed together. There was
That was
stuff.
Alyssa's first
Yeah,
one.
her first investigation.
Oh my God.
We're in there, and we all were scared. I'm like, this is where
Don't
we
take
live
me. I will
now.
not leave your side.
This is where we live now. We're not leaving.
But you know, what is the difference? They said at night. Why people go something at night? Is it not happening in the daytime?
Because it looks spookier on camera.
Really? Is that right?
I mean, yeah, honestly, like for shows and for videos and stuff, it does. Having it at night and, you know, the red light flashlight and on camera and blah, blah, blah.
But it might happen
It looks
in daytime, too.
spookier.
Oh, yeah.
It can happen anytime. I will also say, though, one perk to night is generally it's quieter, though. So that's one thing. Like, it's a lot easier to hear, oh, if there was like a knock on something or sounds like something shuffling up and down stairs or whatever, right? Because generally there aren't a lot of people driving around at 3 a.m. So that is the other perk.
And if you have your mics on and it's like rowdy outside or something,
There is a gentleman in San Antonio, Texas. I forgot his name. His job is he goes to the haunted houses and let the spirit goes to the light. That's what.
Yeah, we did that the last one.
I think I don't know what is that, but that's what he does. I think.
So yeah, I have very strong opinions on this.
What is it? Is it true? Is it right? You really can send the spirit to the light, or you can actually say, "Hey, it's that way. Go over there."
So
just gonna release them.
For me, as a medium and someone who specializes in the more death aspect of things. So if you were to go look up like a death doula or a psychopomp, right? That is more my kind of area of specialty in dealing with that. That may not be every medium's of specialty, but for just your regular old paranormal investigator, right? I just want to go into this location because it's haunted and see if I can get some beeps on my REM pod. And I'm not a medium, though. I just think that this is fun. They absolutely should not ever be trying to do something like that. I will never move a spirit on unless I have been able to communicate with them and have their consent, or that like them actually saying like, yes, I need to move on. I don't know how to do this. I need assistance, right? Then in that case, I will do that. But there have been plenty of times where there's a spirit that they are here for a reason, right? So as an example, our very first investigation, there was a spirit in actually my neighborhood. It's over in Leander, and the spirit that everybody's seen, and he's
watch out.
Watch out. I mean, yeah, actually watch out. But you can just call us now, But so there's this spirit there, and he's walking around, and typical like misunderstanding. People are being scared by this spirit, blah blah blah. He actually has no ill intent. What he is there to do is he's kind of protecting the land, right? He's like watching over things, being a sort of protector, right? So if I was somebody that's just, a regular old investigator, I might be like, oh, the spirit is like scaring these residents and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to help him move on. But if I can't communicate with this spirit and find out the full story that, oh, he is actually here for a reason, and he's kind of this like protector of this spiritual ecosystem, if you will, I can't go move him on. First of all, he's not saying I want to be moved on. He's also saying I'm supposed to be here because I'm doing like protections, right? I'm here protecting the land and the space and these other spirits. So that is like, to me, a very big no-no. And like if you are not a medium that deals with that, that is not ever something that somebody should be messing with.
Yeah, if the spirit said that, yeah, I want to move on. I want to go. I don't want to be here. What is the process on that?
So
you really take him, put him somewhere else?
Energetically, basically. So basically what I do is I essentially open up a portal.
Online portal? No, I'm just
energetic portal. Nobody is going to know everything, right? So I don't fully know like where it actually is going to. I can see kind of, like glimpses of things, but I also think that that's something that's going to look different for everybody, right? Depending on their belief system, and where they're going to go. But what I can do is energetically open up that portal and give them that space to then cross through if they so desire. I will always tell them to ask somebody who they knew and loved and felt comfortable with in life to come through to help escort them through, so that way they feel more comfortable. Because obviously imagining that, like, that's gotta feel like a scary situation, right? You don't necessarily know where you're going or what's going on. So having somebody come through that you loved, meant a lot to you, to kind of go through and escort you and be like, hey, it's gonna be okay, blah blah blah. In the circumstances that somebody does not have that, I will say, hey, I'm going to have one of my guides, my spirit guides, escort you through. They're going to make sure that you get over there safely, blah, 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 right? It does take a lot of energy for me to hold those open, though, because they're not always going to be like, oh, cool, portal's open, bye. Like, sometimes they do kind of, there's that like, oh, I don't know, like, should I feel kind of
Like literally one
Yeah.
foot in and one foot out
Yeah,
the door.
exactly. And so Toni is has like Reiki certifications for energy work, so she'll also send energy to it to like help make sure that we can keep that open while they're, figuring it out. But then eventually they go through, and it is, at least for me, I'm curious what your experiences have been when we've done this, but it is a very noticeable energetic shift. So exactly like you've talked about before, when you walk into a room and like somebody just had a big argument, you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. You feel that, right? It's like that heaviness that we were talking about. It's like it completely dissipates and it feels so much lighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had that experience like last week.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a space that used to be used as a morgue. So they would prepare the bodies and everything in there. When you walk in, it feels really heavy. It feels like a really hot, humid room, kind of. Like you just feel like the air is thicker in there or something. But you also get a little bit of anxiety in there. Like there's a lot of eyes on you or something. You're like, okay, what? Like, why is everybody looking at me? But when we did that in that space, we had the REM pod set up. And the way you explained it that day, I think was really nice because you were like, I'm just going to like put a door here and open the door. And like the way that I kind of envision that is like the deli counter with like people in line and everybody's seeing something different when that door is open and they're going, because like your heaven's going to look different than my heaven, or your next step's going to look different from my next step. You have different lessons to learn. Everybody does, blah, 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 blah. But after we did that, open the door, like the REM pod started going off, like almost like the little beep beep in like a supermarket when you're like walking in or out the door, and it was like beep 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 beep. Like, and then when we came back in there, we left the room and we came back and we were like, yeah, like actually does feel lighter and different in this
Noticeably
room.
different. Yeah.
And some houses, people die in there. And some people, they say, the spirit still lives there. As you said, they're protecting their own environment, or they're so attached to their, their previous existence, the material. And you had any experience with that you go in, they say, oh yeah, they're not going to leave. This is their house and they're just going to stay.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because usually in those scenarios where it's somebody that is in the house, they're not there for a specific reason, if you will. Generally, at least based on what I have encountered, it is due to something, right? So either due to like they had a really like fast, sudden death, and maybe they're not sure that they have actually passed yet. And generally in those cases, something that we have done before is actually like read the obituary or read the newspaper article or bring the death certificate. So that way they and kind of explain to them, it's kind of like ghost therapy, right? Like explain to them, hey, like this is actually what happened to you, da 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 da. Like, do you have any questions for us? Is there any way that we can help you? And usually once they understand what occurred, they're able to move on. Another instance that we've encountered is the bad guys, if you will. Like we've gone somewhere where somebody, brutally murdered someone, whatever. Okay, well, he was still at that place, obviously not because he was protecting anything. He was there because he was afraid to move on because he didn't know what he would be moving on to, right? So he was choosing to remain in this place because he didn't want to face whatever it is he was about to face by moving on, if you will. So it's generally like, it's pretty rare that I found that somebody's just like, oh yeah, I really like this house, I'm just gonna hang out, right? Usually there's some sort of like
Attachment.
reason. Yeah.
Like, like last week, one of our dear friends' wife passed away, with that long battle of the cancer and everything else. And then we went to his house, me and a couple of my friends, we went to his house for condolences, just gonna. And as soon as I walked in, it was so heavy. The whole air was so heavy. I could I could feel somebody just died there. Like it was so heavy. And I told him and my friend, man, I don't feel good. And he said, well, what's going on? Just sit a little bit. I said, we sat a little bit. I could not wait to get out because I think she's there. I promise, because she was so attached to her house, to her materials, to whatever she built, and she was so particular. I think she is there, and I could feel the heaviness of the air. Like I was sitting, I could feel the air.
And I'm sure there's a lot of grief
Yeah.
that's coming around the house, and like
Yeah.
people are coming for their condolences.
Yes.
The husband is grieving, her family's grieving, so you're gonna feel that.
Yeah, and that's just what I was going to bring up is I think when it comes to residential cases specifically, I believe that a lot of that is actually caused by the living. So how we were talking about, you can feel the energy, right? You walk into a space and somebody's really mad or they just had this big argument. And you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be in here, right? Energy can either be created or destroyed, right? So where is it going? If I am getting, if my husband just died and I'm really sad and I'm grieving and I'm mourning this loss, that's going to go somewhere. It's going to be around me, right? And in my physical space. And this is something, if you research like paranormal things, some things that you'll hear a lot about are like poltergeist activity or PK manifestations, which is psychokinesis manifestations, I believe is what it stands for. But essentially what that is, in my belief, is that is the physical manifestation of energy that we are putting out into our space.
Wow. That's fascinating. What do you think about that, Toni?
I'm in agreement.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's had that experience of like you go to somebody's house and they're, like they're happy, the family's like cooking all the time and you just feel like warm and welcome. Or you go to somebody else's house and maybe there's, I don't know, maybe it's not a good relationship the family has with each other and you can feel like, I want to stay here too long.
Is it not that a little bit tough on you guys because you hang around with people, and especially for you, you said as a medium, and you kind of feel this kind of energies, positive, negatives. How you live your day or life? I'm serious. You are surrounded with different people, different environment. You go to places and you constantly feel this. How you do that?
I mean, yes,
Isn't
that is a
exhausting?
very good question.
Blend a bubble.
Yes, it can be. And yeah, this is where that protection comes into play that I was talking about earlier. Like every single morning when I wake up, I do what I call my Glinda bubble. Glinda from the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she has her big bubble. Like I essentially put this bubble around myself of setting the intention that, this is my little energetic field and bubble, and I do not want to be picking up on anybody else's stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like I always describe myself as saying I am turned off majority of the time, because then for me, this also gets into like the ethics of mediumship, right? It's not particularly fair of me to be walking around and just picking up on people's lives, right? And like how you were talking about your mom, like, oh, well, I saw it break, or like, oh, he's on the bus and he's coming home, blah, blah, blah. That is what's called remote viewing, which is something I do as well. But like, I mean, do I want to like remote view right now on what my husband is doing at home? It's like
CCTV.
Yeah, exactly. It's like essentially having like a little like video camera on them, or like there have been a couple of times where unintentionally I'll be with a friend and like I get this hit, if you will, in my head of like seeing this thing that happened with them and their partner or whatever, some like secret that they have. And I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to know this. It's like for me, I'm like, you're not giving me consent to tap into those things and to be able to pick up on those and like watch you, if you will, right? Like that seems icky to me. And so I like to keep myself closed off majority of the time, because I'm like, I'm only going to read people if you specifically ask me to, like I don't need to be walking around knowing everybody's dirty laundry. Like that is a lot.
Read people.
Yeah.
You can read. We're gonna have a discussion. It's just I don't read like you do, but I get that kind of sensation. I get the feeling when I meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
I can get that feeling. Okay, yeah, I get that they're lying, they're not lying, or they're acting, they're pretending. So I get all that energy, and people they telling me that I attract people, like I attract people. It's just like I was in a gathering. It's a networking big event. It was a guy in that corner was nice, salt and pepper hair and all this stuff. Very nice gentleman. And we start talking. I didn't know who the hell is this guy. And we were talking. We talk about culture. We talk about it. He got so attracted. We talk about that. And after we left, and a friend of mine came and said, "Hi, how are you, sir?" Oh, you know him? I said, "Yeah, we just met." And I told my friend, "Oh, who's that guy?" He said, "He's a district attorney." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, yeah." And I didn't know. And we became great friends. We are still good friends. I think some people they have that thing that attract. Like I attract good energy, and I sense bad energy.
It's because you have bright, sparkly energy, and people want to be in it. It makes them feel good when they're in it. Yeah.
That's what it is. That when I do the podcast, this is honestly, I told you the reason this podcast is I'm learning from people. And then when I get into the talk with these people, I interview a billionaire, and I asked him why you are here. He said, "I don't know. I get this energy. I want to be your friend. I want to be here, talk to you." I said, "Wow, ooh, that's pretty good." And I'm not pretending that, yeah, like that. But I'm not bragging about it, but I believe the energy. That's what I'm saying. Every day I'm believing more, and I'm reading more about the energy. And that's what I was interested in talk to you guys and get your feedback on that. That is really this powerful, energies exist.
And on the flip side of that, I mean, we've all known people that we've hung out with and we're like, woo, I am drained. I need to go be alone at home. Like, I don't know what happened, but they sucked out all my positivity. I got to go rest or something.
They're, energy suckers, right? What is the signs of those? Do you have any advice for people that say, "Hey, stay away from this crowd"? If you see A, B, C, D, or there's any even signs for the people that they're gonna suck the energy out of you?
So energy, energy vampires. Generally they are going to be somebody who tends to be more negative, right? They're not going to be that person that looks for the silver lining of things, right? Like the person who, let's say, "Oh yeah, I got rear-ended today, but honestly, it could have been so much worse. I'm really, glad that the cops came pretty quickly and we were able to get it sorted, and, it's whatever, like nobody was hurt, so it's fine," right? Versus the person that's like, "Oh my God, I got rear-ended today and I can't believe this happened again. I just got my car washed and da-da-da-da," right? Like it's that person who they're always kind of looking at things with that more negative, if you will, viewpoint. But it's also, literally like tune into how you feel, right? If you are around somebody, like one of the things that I am constantly asking myself is, how does this feel in my body? And so when you are around somebody, like how I just said, you have that like bright, sparkly energy, right? And it just feels good to be in that. So right now I'm very introverted, like talking to people and being in social settings. I'm like, I honestly avoid that, but it feels fine right now because you have that energy that's bright and sparkly and makes people feel good, right? If you are around somebody and you are getting those feelings of that like heaviness, right? Or you just kind of feel like maybe for you it might manifest as like, "Oh, my shoulder feels a little achy," or like, "Oh, I just like feel suddenly like really tired," or blah, 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 right? Like however that is manifesting in your body, if it is anything other than like, I'm leaving seeing this person and I feel lit up right now. I feel excited or inspired, or I feel joyful, or I feel like I just had a lot of fun. If you are feeling anything other than that, obviously do what you will. But for me, I'm just at a point in my life where I'm like, if it's not those things, like I don't have time for that. Like energy affects everything.
How about you, Toni?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm pretty sensitive to like what people are throwing out. And I've had to like end some friendships because I'm like, you actually are like
people.
Yeah, like, sorry, we can't be friends anymore, because when we hang out, I'm not leaving feeling good. I'm leaving feeling really tired. I'm feeling really drained. I'm feeling negative. And then I'm taking that home and I'm taking that to my family.
Everything's a ripple effect.
Exactly. It's like the butterfly effect or something like that. And that's just what it is. And it's hard to explain But you know it when you feel it. And like, to be honest, I'm not really a hugger, but I was like, I'm going to hug you. You look like a good hugger. And you are.
Thank you. Oh my God. Oh my God. You made me
You know,
so...
I'm very choosy with my hugs.
Yeah.
Oh my... Oh. You made me blush. No, thank you so much. And
I mean,
your
thanks
hug
for a
was
good
very
hug.
nice.
Thanks.
But I totally understand that, and I don't know why some people go through life with surrounding themselves with the negative people, negative energy, and negative thoughts because, you have one life. What are you going to do with,
Yeah.
And one day we're all going to be gone. Just enjoy it. But, they said, where you go where the energy goes or something like that, is just so important that we understand that aspects of it. But for you, ladies, that you're doing this for fun or whatever is your mission is, and I know you, but it's very fascinating, it's very educational. But what is the next thing for you? It's just going to be a steady show, or you have a bigger,
Oh,
surprises?
we've got dreams.
Paging Travel Channel, we're ready for a ghost show.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
And we want a pink hearse.
Yeah.
Have you ever travel overseas or no?
I actually was just in France in February.
Yeah, it was so
We
weird.
were on a bit- we
I
were-
was also traveling. I was doing a Euro
We saw
trip,
each other
and we
at
ran
the
into each other
airport.
in the
No
airport.
way.
Yeah.
You don't get enough each other.
Yeah, we were
Didn't even
literally
know we were gonna be in the same terminal.
Yeah, we were literally like both flying back from London to Austin. We were on different flights, but they were at the same exact time. And we're literally like walking off of our planes and we see each other and we're like, "Oh, hey."
But the question I have is this, different culture, different languages, how these souls or spirit react. Like, for example, if you go to Italy, you don't speak in Italian. How we're going to communicate with this people?
I've asked Nicole this a few times. She's got a great answer.
No, I'm serious. Like, I speak 5 languages.
Yeah.
It's like if I speak with you Farsi, how that's going to be. What was always interested in that.
So on the other side, in my experience, when you pass over and you move on, it's kind of like reaching a level of enlightenment, if you will, where it's more all-knowing, right? So like human feelings and emotions for someone who's moved on, right? So not like the ghosts that we're investigating that are still kind of here on this plane. They've moved on, they're in wherever. You have more of a sense of like purpose, I guess, and like all, not all knowing, but kind of. So language isn't really something that's going to be an issue on the other side. They're going to be able to speak any language or communicate with you however they want to communicate with you,
Yeah,
however you're best going to be able to communicate.
You've had people show you like images. If they're like, "No, girl, you are not getting
Yeah,
it.
it's
Like
like a
this is what it is." And,
Pictionary.
like you're playing categories
Yeah.
with the ghosties.
Yeah, they can they'll use like different ways of communicating, but yeah.
Is Austin's got a lot of spooky areas? Or Texas?
Texas has
Texas,
a lot,
yes.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of our investigations this season have only been in Texas. Yeah.
And you're planning to take this to a TV show?
I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
It's-
Because I think
You
that
should guys do it. It's just fun.
Thank you. I just think that for us, and not to toot our own horns, but
Toot
also
away.
to toot our own horns, as women in the paranormal space and a diverse team in the paranormal space, it is not something that is really represented on television shows.
Especially women of color. How many women of color have you seen ghost hunting on the Travel Channel?
Literally
Yeah, you're right. I
zero.
never
Literally
noticed.
zero. Yeah, and it's predominantly like all men, which is fine, but it's a different dynamic, right? The feminine energy versus masculine energy, and they're very the shows that are on television currently, it's very serious, right? And not that, like, of course we take what we do very seriously, and we're very serious about educating ourselves on this and knowing as much as possible, and, you know, having all of these different mentors and people that we can turn to and ask questions to in a community and blah, blah, blah. But also, we feel that it's very important to showcase our personalities, right? And make it more relatable. Like, this is not something, I don't think that should be such a niche interest and a niche topic. It is something that affects literally everybody on this planet. Energy is exactly what we've been
I
talking
agree
about
with
this
that.
entire time, right? And so why wouldn't we try to make that is something that is more relatable to normal everyday people, and not make it like, oh, well, if you want to go to this haunted place and try to find answers for yourself, you need this $300 piece of equipment and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, where's the personality? Like, where's the fun? It doesn't all have to be just like, oh, there's a demon in the basement, you know, like,
There's always a demon in the basement. There's
yeah.
always a lady in white.
Yeah, it's like, let's like,
Toni.
it's time for something different.
Amen.
Yeah. Yes, amen. And then how the spirit react to different religions, like religious, like,
They-
you know, Christian, Catholic, you know, the Buddhist, the Muslim.
They don't care.
They really?
I mean, it's like, if we are interacting with a ghost, right? And I'm defining ghost as somebody who passed and is still like an intelligent entity that is on our plane, right? So something that might be like, oh, I saw this ghost walking down the stairs, whatever, right? That they're not somebody who is like moved on. Sure, they're still going to retain some of their original beliefs. So if I go in and I'm trying to do some sort of, I don't know, like witchy ritual, it's not going to resonate with them if they were Catholic, right? But it also depends on the context in which you're using it. If I'm trying to do something that will rid the ghost of the space, right, then I'm going to want to cater to what their beliefs may have been, versus if I'm trying to do something that is like protection or cleansing for me, then I need to do what my beliefs are, right? But when it comes to spirits who have moved on, they are no longer on this physical plane. It doesn't matter.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's so.
At least what I've experienced.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
none of us know.
How about you,
None of
Toni?
us know
I've
everything.
never thought
So
about it on any of the investigations, and it
Really?
hasn't come up. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll go places where there are like usually like Christian Catholic stuff, but it doesn't impact any of the work we're doing.
yeah.
And I'm sure you have seen this. You know, I have a lot of questions, but I promise you, this is my last one. But you know, you have seen a lot of movies that they said, okay, you know, his or her body is, you know, got into, like a devil got into it. And these people, actually, I saw documentaries, and they get the guys. Why is that? They're talking different sound.
Oh, the
and
possession.
possession, yeah. What is that? Is it really?
Well, I think that this is a loaded topic, because then this is getting into the intersection of paranormal and mental health, because there are some mental health conditions that present in the same way as what somebody might call a possession. And these are things that are also not discussed on television shows or whatever, because it is very sensitive. But I can tell you from knowing multiple people who have paranormal shows, they do, like the people that are on those shows when they're doing residential cases, they do get psych evals first to ensure that these things are not at play. So I think it is worth noting that that is a thing. But when we are talking about an actual possession in which a spirit has entered the person's body, right? Then
You believe that?
Oh, yeah, because I mean, that's what trance mediumship is, right? The only difference is trance mediumship is I'm not going to like let a freaking demon come into my body, right? But like, yeah, that is something that can happen. I mean, there's like,
In Italy, I heard a lot of cases.
yeah, like that is something that, you know, for anybody who might be skeptical or, you know, just adamantly like, oh, I'm not a believer, da da da, da, you cannot refute that across the entire world, every country, every culture, there are reports of these things happening. Like that is factual. So what is it? Is everybody around the world over, you know, the entire span of history just making this up?
What's interesting is my part of my degree was in folklore. And there's so many stories that are essentially the same, but they just are catered to a different culture's beliefs. And you see, I mean, even just like with ghosts and spirits, every single culture, no matter like where you are, what access to technology you have, people see spirits, people believe in spirits, people have experiences.
Yep. And even the negative entities, right? You have a demon, or it could be a jinn, or it could be a dybbuk, or, you know.
You know jinn?
Yeah.
Oh, how do you know that? It's a Farsi word.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I view my job as like, I need to know as much as I can about all of
great.
these
And she
different,
studies
like,
a lot. She has a whole library.
I have
Mother
a
tells
whole
a lot of
library.
stories
Yeah.
about jinn.
Yeah, I have a whole library.
Right,
So I'm like,
yeah.
I need to know what we're getting ourselves into. Like, protection is my job.
Like my mother told me a story from my grandmother, and my grandmother was half Russian, half Persian. And she said, you know, she was, you know, my mom is 85 years old now, but she said when she was like younger, like 16, 17, and when in the living room, living with the mother, and the mother, her mom would, you know, wake up and she had all these scratches in her body. And then like scratches, and they would say, yeah, they came again at night. They would drag her. And then she had all the scratches, like a cat scratches on her body. So mom said, no, this house has got jinn. And there's a well was inside that land. It was like an acre land or whatever. So yeah, they're coming out, and you know, my grandmother was beautiful, Russian, blue eyes. He said they like to play with it and scratch it and all that stuff. And they end up leaving that. I said, Mom, don't tell me all this. And that's what, when you said jinn, is that something they're using in that Middle Eastern culture.
Yeah. And see, it's like, it's exactly like Tony just said, you know, it's essentially the same stories from every culture, every country around the world. It's just, you know, this one little thing, like the name, right, is tweaked to jinn for that specific culture, versus here we might say a demon, right?
Yeah, demon.
It's all the same thing. It's just, you know, we're saying the same thing in different ways.
But you know, I am so happy that we connected it, ladies, and
Me too. This
you
was
know,
really
yeah,
fun.
and just met you guys, and I promise I'm gonna hook you up with Clippy. We're gonna go together, but I'm gonna be standing right behind you.
We'll bring you a diaper.
I know you gotta do that. No,
And we have a cleansing kit in our go bag, so you won't
Yeah.
take
What is
home.
that?
We always cleanse at the end with our palo and everything, so that if there's any ghost that's trying to come home with us, they gotta stay.
Is that
Yeah.
happens sometimes? You bring a ghost home?
Oh,
You
yeah.
didn't bring anybody here, right?
No.
We brought a minivan full.
Oh
of no,
my
I'm just
God. Oh my God. You know, but definitely, I promise you I'll make that happen. But, you know, it was fast. I learned so much, as I said, and thank you for being here. I know you guys, you have a tight schedule. You have your daily things you do, but thanks for being here.
Thank
It
you
really
for having
meant a lot.
us.
This was great.
Yeah, meant a lot to me, and I hope we talk more about this stuff as you guys you grow and get your show to the TV, and you know, one day you guys are gonna be all over. Oh, I know those two ladies. Oh my God, she gave me a hug. She was an auditor.
They're rare. I'm telling you, they're rare.
Hey,
It
it must be
is.
special.
It's the sparkles.
Sparkles.
But you know, thank you so much, and I look forward for our next chat.
Awesome.